Hi, everybody. I am very lucky to be interviewed by Pandora Sykes. And I'm nervous. I'm not used to being interviewed. And very excited as well. And I'm waiting for her to join me. I've been teased quite a lot about my beginning of Instagrams, of when people come on, because I'm always so nervous, because I'm worried they're not going to connect. And then I get so overexcited when they do come on. But I'm really pleased to see all of you here joining us. And I'm waiting for Pandora. She's on her way. I know she's there. She's joined. And I'm going to ask her to, she's joined. Should I ask her to join again? He says waiting for Pandora. So I hoped that it would be simple. I'm going to start again. There we are. Send request. Hi, everybody. How's your day been? I hope the technology works. She's connecting. She's here. She is just, Pandora. I can hear papers.
Is this
there
working? Oh, my internet's doing funny things though. So I can't see you.
I can see you. I've never actually met you in the face, have I? We've talked on the phone and I've been on your podcast. But it's lovely to see you.
Yes. I know. Well, I haven't really met anyone in the flesh for a very long time because I was sort of incubating and then on maternity leave before lockdown. So it's probably been about 2 years before I've met in flesh. But I do feel like I sort of know you anyway.
Yeah, I feel like I know you too. I loved your book. And I love your podcast. Yeah.
I'm repositioning you. You're better at this than me. Okay, here we go. Right, so I'm going to ask you some questions about your wonderful book. Or would you...
Good. I'm not used to being asked questions. I'm used to asking the questions.
I know, me too. Well, we don't have to do it like that.
No,
we can do it however you like.
That's the deal.
Okay.
I think that's a lovely thing.
Okay. Yes, I mean, it sort of is the deal. So I've now got 2 copies of your book because I've got your original book and then I've got your paperback with the updated COVID-19 case study, which is a lovely little primer of some of the ways in which this year might have affected us, told through the I was going to say plight, but I don't know if it's a journey because there is a lot of hope in that sort of shifting of identity by the time you've worked with him. Can you tell us a little bit about this COVID case that you included and why you thought it was a good one in a book about change and hope? Because there is a really large theme of hope coming through the book.
Yeah. So in April, Eric contacted me, and he'd been very, very ill on intensive care for 5 days, and took a long time to rehabilitate, and was having terrible nightmares. There was quite a lot of trauma still in his body, and he was 72, and before he was ill, he'd been this very physically fit, active man. And one of the first things he said to me was, I kind of want my old self back, where he walked up mountains and did a lot of work mentoring for the Prince's Trust and was still very kind of engaged with life. And when I first met him, he was on a Zimmer frame. And the process was of adjustment, which, as you say, in the end ended with hope, was, when someone's ill, so I did it in the section of health. And one of the things I wanted to show through health is that when someone is ill, it is by no means only the ill person that's affected, but everybody who loves that person is very affected. And his wife had a very hard, while he was in hospital, she couldn't get hold, she couldn't speak to anybody. It was at the peak of lockdown. She wasn't allowed in. Her daughters, who were adults, weren't allowed to visit her. So she was alone, ringing and ringing and ringing the hospital, not knowing whether her husband was alive or dead, really properly terrified. And like most people, when she's terrified, you're also furious. Like, this wasn't the deal. You know, I, as much as it's for sickness and health, I never wanted to be put in this position where the person I love most in the world is the one that's terrifying me most in the world.
Yeah.
And so when he came out of hospital, having been in rehab, he thought there'd be these hugs and these sort of tears, and that she would kind of be Florence Nightingale looking after him. And actually she was livid with him. And she, you know, she was sort of lemon lipped. And it took a long time. I think the thing with trauma is that it blocks your capacity to connect, because it puts your whole body on high alert. So you're in fight or flight. And so you're constantly kind of looking for danger, and your capacity through oxytocin, which is the bonding hormone, like, you know, from breastfeeding, goes completely offline when you're traumatized.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. So we did EMDR, which is the thing I've been doing the last couple of years, eye movement desensitization reprocessing. And you target the worst part of the most frightening image. And by doing that, you rewire your brain and connect the traumatized memory with the neofrontal cortex, which is the bit that makes sense of it and has a sense of your past and intelligence and understanding. So you integrate it, and so it's stored in the kind of library of your brain, not the on alert bit of your brain. Does that make sense?
I was going to say, can you talk me through how EMDR, I always get it mixed up, it's EMDR, not EDMR, isn't it?
Yeah.
EMDR. How that works, because I was reading, and it's about, you were saying about tapping, but how, like, what is the literal, okay, yes. So that's the butterfly, is that
online,
the butterfly hug?
It's the butterfly hug. Good knowledge.
That's from your book.
So if I saw someone face to face, I'd do the eye move. So it's the, you know, like REM sleep is when you process memories. So when you go into deep sleep, you have reprocessing
okay.
memories. And when you don't sleep, people get depressed. They have very poor memories. They can't concentrate. And part of that is because the memories haven't been processed through the sleeping. Right. And so this is the similar process, but while you're awake. And by moving your left to the right, by following the movement of your eyes, you process a traumatized memory and reconnect it with the sort of intelligence of your whole brain and understanding. And it fires up those networks of understanding. So it's not, because it's an evolutionary thing that you're on alert to look for danger. So it's there to kind of save you from the tiger. But in modern life, there aren't tigers, but we have so many, you know, I think maybe a lot of births aren't recognized, the link between difficult births and postnatal depression, for instance.
Yes. I can totally imagine that. But I think it's amazing because, I mean, I'd heard of it and I knew it was something that was used for trauma, but I didn't realize till I read about it in your book, not how easy it is, because that makes it sound like
it is easy.
I could do it. Really?
You could.
Yes. Ah, okay, challenge accepted.
So, and on my IG feeds, I show people how to do it for themselves, so that when I can't sleep, I sit up in bed like a kind of moron and I go into my safe place and I do some EMDR, and it completely winds me down. I breathe.
Oh my God, I'll definitely check that out. That would be really useful for insomnia. I think what I found, there were a couple of things that was so interesting about what you were just saying there and about his case study, that I'm sure so many people would nod with recognition. You saying that when someone's scared, they can actually be furious, really, really reminds me of my mum, because whenever my dad's ill, she gets really cross with him because, you know, like you say, she's scared. But I think something that I was it made your writing often makes so much sense, and it's so simple, but it's still not things that, you know, I'm sure I'm not the only one that I had necessarily realized. And when you're talking about him, you say, as a therapist, I tell everyone we have to grieve our previous selves, and it takes time, often more than we want to catch up emotionally with the events of our lives. And I think that's really applicable to often when you come out of a really bad place, you think, oh, that's done, thank
Forget
God.
it. Don't think about it.
But actually what you're saying is you've got a whole new identity. Everything's, I mean, we're changing obviously all the time anyway, but if you've gone through a really big change, that you might kind of have a hangover, and like a psychological or an emotional hangover. Could you talk a little bit about that? Because I thought that might be really useful for people who are, you know, we've now got a timeline on when we're coming out of all this. And I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about what they're going to be like on the other side. And obviously, most of us will be different.
Yes, I mean, I think a hangover is a really perfect way of describing it, in that as we process events, if they're within our comfort zone, nothing is up. So you kind of know what you're going to do in your day, you feel safe, and you just go through the day. And like, people always sit in the same place on the sofa, they put their pants and shoes on in the same way. You know, we like habits, we're habit forming beings, and it reminds us we're safe, we're not under threat, and all is well. When change happens, like a blooming pandemic, it threatens us because there is so much systemic and daily change that nothing is familiar anymore. We can't make plans for our holidays, we can't see our friends for coffee, and we're scared. And the process for, I think, people's changing sense of themselves, I think, is their mortality, their sense of their mortality, because most people haven't been thinking that they can die, but now it's sort of much closer, and that I think we fear that. And so it's integrating their understanding that death is part of life. And in the same way with Eric, he actually, once he'd recognized that his near-death experience made him recognize how precious life was, and he engaged in life more fully as a result. I would hope one of the surprising kind of growths from this is that you recognize how important friends are, how important hugs are, how much ordinary things are, and that you kind of prioritize them, you know, away. So I think one of the big things is the lack of busyness some people have had because they haven't had to commute, they haven't been going out in the evening, and so they have had more time. And sometimes having time is unsettling because it brings up all the feelings that busyness kind of blocks. Busyness is a real anesthetic. But I'm sort of going in lots of different directions. I think the emotional cost of the change of going into the unlock is as expensive as the lockdown, because it's a shift in yourself. So, you know, we're not familiar of putting on heels, meeting a friend for a drink in a bar, and people are scared they're going to lose their social skills.
Well, I'm sure there will be an element, won't they? Like, I don't particularly want to go to like a huge party when we can. I'm just excited about saying like 4 people. And I read something the other day, I think it was called like re-entry anxiety, kind of that you're entering, you know, society again, and there's an anxiety. And I feel like fear of going out. Yes. I mean, I think some people, I think that was a thing before, but do you think that there's, I mean, I think re-entry anxiety is quite real.
It's very real. I think that, and the thing is to kind of go at your own pace, know yourself, don't feel under pressure to do what maybe your best friend is doing, who may be very different to you. Kind of know yourself and support yourself given who you know yourself to be. So put your toe in the water, meet one friend in a place that's familiar, that you feel safe for a short time, where you can be kind of cozy and casual, and it can feel very unthreatening. And do that for the number of times it takes until you sort of really feel out of 10, it's an anxiety of 9. And then take yourself a step further, maybe meet, as you say, 4 people, maybe for supper, and do that. So it's a bit like agoraphobia. With agoraphobia, I used to work on an agoraphobia project. So you take people to the front door until they were, out of 10, 9 not anxious, or naught, you know, whichever way you look at it. Does that make sense? So you
Yes,
keep doing the thing until you feel no anxiety. I said the numbers the wrong way around. That's what I did. I thought I said it
because
wrong.
I was talking to yeah, that's such a good point. So I was talking to Bryony Gordon last week, who obviously writes and is an activist for mental health. And she was saying, and I just haven't thought about it like this, I was saying that, you know, there's maybe like for some people, they felt a silver lining to lockdown it has been that they felt like safe. They've been able to be at home. And she talked about how sometimes the things that we feel are keeping us safe are actually the things that are holding us back. And I wondered about that because I hadn't thought of it like that. But ultimately, if you feel like you need to be at home to feel safe, then possibly that's a reason to get out. But of course, that doesn't feel like you're looking after yourself. So sometimes looking after yourself can maybe be the opposite to what it initially seems. That's what I took from that.
And I think what I take from that also is that you have to, you know, each thing that you're doing, you have to assess what it means to you and what you make of it subjectively, and go to your window of tolerance, so that you know that if you're antisocial by nature, and so that your inclination is to stay home because going out feels frightening and dangerous, but actually staying home, we need connection to other people. We can't just, we need a village. It can be a small village of 4 or 5 people. Can you still see me? I think you've gone slightly. Are you there? Hi, everybody. I think her Wi-Fi is playing up. Oh, Pandora. Yes, she keeps cutting out at crucial moments. Shall I talk to you and then hope she comes back? She's gone. Pandora Sykes left. Let me try again. Pandora Sykes, send request. Sorry, everybody. Hi, there you are.
I'm so okay. I'm switching places. I'm so sorry about that.
Don't worry.
Hold on. God, let's see over here. Is this any better?
Yeah, that's good.
Oh God, have I cut out again?
No, you haven't cut out. You haven't cut out. Oh, you have cut out. Give her a second. Thanks, everybody. Don't worry, this too shall pass. I agree. This too shall pass. She's gone. Let's try again. Beautiful moments. Thank you. So sorry. Sorry, everyone. She's gone. Oh my God. Let's try again. Pandora. Thank you for being patient, everyone. Shall I answer some of your questions? It's all part of the experience. Someone asked. There we go. Hi. You're in and out. Thank you, Ray. These things happen. Thank you, Laura. Hi, Laura. It's no one's fault. It's okay. This is life. It's still fun. Can you perhaps talk to us? Okay, I'll talk to you. There you are. The joys.
Am I here though?
You're here.
Oh God.
You're doing really well. It honestly doesn't matter. Everyone said
really.
I can hear you fine.
Can you see me?
I can see you and hear you. You look gorgeous.
Okay, I'll just carry on. I'm so sorry. Sweaty
Don't worry
armpit.
at all.
Okay, so I'll quickly ask you a question before I blooming duck out again, and then at least you'll be able to answer that while I'm gallivanting in the no internet lands. I want to ask you about something that I think lots of people talk about and struggle to do so. But in one of your cases, in This Too Shall Pass, you talk about how feelings are not facts.
Oh yes, that's one of my favourites.
Yes, and that's something that I think lots of people struggle with. Can you explain a little bit how like, because you can hear that intellectually, but emotionally and rationally, I think it can be quite hard to apply. Can you talk a little bit about how to separate those out in your mind and like tips for disentangling them?
Yeah. So for instance, using this, that you may feel bad that the Wi-Fi doesn't work. And you may conflate the feeling of bad with a very familiar shitty committee in your head, which is, I'm useless, I can't do anything, this is my fault, I'm an idiot. And so what I talk about in the feelings are not fact is that you may feel bad, this is in your heart, in your emotions, that this is annoying and bad, but you need to use your compassionate self and your understanding of yourself to recognize the limits of your power, that not to put feeling into fact that it makes you bad, but to separate the feeling from the fact, and that actually this is down to internet and nothing to do with you. Does that explain it?
Yes, that explains it. And then if someone, I mean, this is probably a bit of a CBT-ish question actually, but if someone is struggling to place those feelings aside, what would you say, what are kind of some steps that can lock up the feelings in order to perhaps come back to them when you're feeling a bit like more factually informed?
I think journaling really helps. So emotions are transmitters of information. So they're there for a reason. So use the information. I'm feeling scared. Write it down. I'm feeling scared because I'm frightened of going to a dinner with 4 people. I don't know if I'm gonna be able to talk to somebody again. I've lost it now speaking to you. I've lost I'm not fun anymore. So write down, I'm frightened, I feel I'm not fun anymore. And then get it all down, because once you've written it down, then it's not incoherent in your body. The thing is with feelings, when you don't name them, is they build up on themselves and they have this kind of charge, like a pressure cooker, that constantly keep wanting to tell you until you pay attention. So all the things that you do to distract yourself from feeling means your feelings are going, hang on, listen to me. So once you hear them and you read them, then I would look at it like looking at a messy room, take one feeling out at a time and go, okay, so I'm frightened of going out. What can I do to support myself so that I can have a nice time? I can set a time limit. I can make sure I'm seeing people who really know me and love me. I can put on my best shirt. I can wash my hair. I can do things that help me feel good about myself. I can talk to my other best friend that she's nervous and maybe we can Zoom together and talk about it, so I don't feel like I'm the loony on my own, the only one doing it. Because I think the big thing about change, so everybody has a difficult relationship with change. All of us do. We're uncomfortable with it. It's unfamiliar.
Everybody.
So
Everybody.
Everybody. But everybody, or most people, also think I'm the only one that has a bad relationship with change. Everybody else looks fine. So people would look at you and think, oh my God, she's amazing. She's done so well. She's so clever. She's written a great book. She's got a great podcast. And they would put that onto you so that you going out, why would you worry? Or, me. And so we always think everybody else is sorted, and then we turn against ourselves with that shitty committee.
Yeah, we did. I so know what you mean there, of always thinking everyone else has got it down and that you're the only one that just can't seem to work it out. There was something else that completely blew my mind, because I think more than ever what I hear is people saying, oh, I just can't deal with any drama. Drama seems to be the word that has become really synonymous with my generation. In the last 15 years, it's all, I don't want any drama. I can't deal with the drama. And I feel like, and I have absolutely no evidence, so please do disagree with me, but I feel like we've become quite conflict averse. But there's something that you say when you're actually talking, because you talk so honestly about the relationships with your clients. You don't pretend that you're kind of like Yoda sort of hovering above it. You have very human reactions, and that at one point there's a rupture, as you put it, between you and a client, Katie, and KT, and you say, as bad as I felt the rupture, I knew it was inevitable in all relationships, and it is the capacity to repair that builds trust, not perfection. And I think that's such a salient reminder that that you can't avoid all conflict, but the important thing is that how you come back from it, how you metabolize it. To people watching who think, oh my God, I feel sick even talking about having an argument, you know, I've got no emotional resolve right now, I've got nothing to kind of draw from, what would be your I keep saying tips, which is such an awful word, isn't it? Okay, tips is fine. Okay, what would be your tips?
So first of all, my number one overarching thing is the people you care about most, that you love most, are the ones you're also likely to hate most and fight with most. Because indifference is the opposite of love, not hate. So that, you know, your partner, you know, your best friend, your child, your mother, your sibling, those are the argument, and maybe your boss, because you know your livelihood depends on it. Those are the ones that really scare people because there's so much invested in them. So first of all, to recognize that the feelings that you have are because you care a lot, and we will always have conflict with people we care about. It is part of life. So in a way, one of the tips is to recognize you cannot not have fights. You cannot avoid drama, because living beings are complex beings. Life is out of our control. There are lots of things that we find difficult. So it's finding ways to support ourselves, given that we face drama and difficulties, not thinking that we can control it and tidy it and just be on the up ladder and avoid the snakes, because that isn't reality. And then so the third thing is that you have to have, I think after a fight, you have to have time out, go away, think about it, and then go back and intentionally repair after the fight. So I'm really bad at fights. I really hate fights. I loathe them. And they sit in my body for days, like igniting me. So I have to do masses of stuff to calm myself down before I go back and repair, because I get very scared. And so I have to do a run, I have to do a meditation, I have to journal, I have to kind of romp around, and then I can go back. Because I have to get rid of all that. Otherwise I just reignite it. Because I'm still upset and I'm still furious, probably. And I don't like being furious. That isn't the me that I like. I like this one, where people are asking me stuff and I have answers.
What about catastrophizing? You know, that thing where you, I'm sure I'm not the only person who does it, where you go through the whole scenario in your mind so many ways that you've already experienced the kind of conversation. Presumably that's a bad thing to do, or is it a good thing to do?
I think it's a human thing to do. The thing is, it doesn't necessarily work, because the response, so you can, you know, if you're having a bad time with a new boyfriend and you rehearse the thing so that you get him to say sorry and say that he loves you, that isn't going to fucking happen, right?
We've both got new boyfriends, so that's very applicable.
You know, so I think if you can, I think what preparation helps, if you know how to calm yourself down, and you know what you want the outcome to be, and you know the message you want to get across. So that can really help you, because then you can kind of, as you're having the conversation, you can surf it in your head, like, have I said that? Has that been clear? Where are we now? Whereas if you have this kind of play that you've set out in your mind, that's just going to drive you nuts, because it's never going to happen.
And you start playing the parts as if.
Exactly.
And you're angry, like you've rehearsed.
I was furious with my husband about a year ago, because I wanted to go and do something that I thought he wouldn't want me to do. And I hadn't told him I was going to go. And for about a week, he kept on saying to me, are you cross with me? No, I'm not cross with you. And in my head, I was hating him, because I thought he was going to say, you can't go, you can't leave me to do this thing we've committed to do. And eventually I told him, he said, fine, go.
I bet everyone watching is desperate to know what you've gone off to do as well, because it sounds like it's something incredibly intrepid and daring and exciting.
No,
and
it was
sexy.
it was to see Esther Perel in New York. She'd asked me to go, and we had
Oh,
people staying.
that would be the dream. I want to see you and Esther Perel, not even in New York. I'll go anywhere.
And I wasn't going to say no, so I said yes without checking with him, and I bought my ticket without telling him, and then I hated him because I thought he was going to be cross with me, and then he wasn't.
So you did all the things that you probably tell your clients not to
Never
do.
to do.
But
Absolutely.
that's what I love. But that's what I love, because you are fallible, and in your book, you know, you say that you're talking about to clients, and you say, actually, this is in the COVID story, I think, isn't it? And you say that you hope Eric and Pauline have a cracking row so they could cry, vent, and make up. But clients don't come to satisfy our storyline, or in this case, my hope for a clean resolution. Because of course, like, you want them just to get it all out on the table so that you, as the therapist, then you can help them rebuild, rather than it sort of limping along, nothing really coming to a head.
And also, as a therapist, this sort of savior thing, you can think, oh, well, I'm going to sort this. And of course you can't. Of course you can't. Life's messy, and my own life's messy. So, you know, the best I can do is listen, probably.
How do you stop, as someone that is professionally obliged to come along and help people, how do you stop that savior complex?
Because, I mean, I fall on my face all the time. Make mistakes, and my children give me an incredible hard time, and quite rightly.
Do they tell you off if you go into therapist mode?
Definitely. They tease me all the time, and you know, they know how annoying and irritating and infuriating I can be. So, and then other people think I'm this sort of, you know, good therapist, and you know, they want to tell them, well, you should try having her as a mother, and then you'd see what she's really like.
I'm sure they're just winding you up. What would be, so we had a question that sped past me quite quickly, because these things move extremely fast. I don't know if you've noticed in the comments, but we did see one, and I did think, I circled that and thought we must come back to that, because you I'm sure that you've had thoughts on it, is people with children, particularly obviously children who have kind of gone in and out of school. Like I feel so lucky to have not had to do homeschooling, and for the kind of rupture in my children's life to be relatively small because they're preschool. The re-entry anxiety, or just the sort of like hangover for children and teenagers. I know that we're talking a lot about, you know, we don't really know the effects of it, and we're worried about how it might shape a generation, and it's all quite kind of abstract, our conversations. What would be your kind of tips for parents who are perhaps worried about how to support their children when they come out of it? Because I imagine there might be the tendency to let them sort of like gorge on everything, you know, or they've been so deprived for the last year, they need this. But of course, you want to do that in a slightly structured or disciplined way, because they're probably emotionally haywire right now. What do you think is the best way forward for parents in the coming months?
I mean, I think, first of all, if you've got more than one child, recognize that each child may be different and their response might be different. So don't expect them to be the same. And I would take time, you know, I think walking and talking with children, or talking to them in the car when they're in the back seats, you're not eyeballing them, sort of saying to them, how are you feeling? But walking together and saying, I think, own it yourself. I'm feeling a bit nervous about the unlock. I'm feeling a bit nervous about seeing my friends. I'm a bit nervous about getting back into the office, or whatever you can say, so that you own it for yourself. Children learn from what you model, not from what you say. My mum always said the opposite. My mother always said, do as I say, not what I do.
Yes, mine too, but it doesn't work like that.
But
wish it did.
I know. So if you model that you're kind of reflective for yourself, that you're sort of thinking about how you can prepare yourself, and then ask them, well, what are you thinking about? Are there things you're excited about? Are there things that you're worried about? And often parents want to say, no, don't worry. You don't need to worry. But actually take their concerns seriously. Really listen is probably the best thing you can do. and then work I can't say the word, collaboratively with your child to work out what would help them. So I know one family, for instance, like they were going back at the end of the Easter term, and she agreed, she met a school friend. Her son met a school friend for a play date the day before they went back to school. So they hadn't seen each other for 6 or 7 weeks. So they had a little play date. So they had and they agreed they were going to see each other at the entrance of the school the next day, so that you had your friends you could go in with, and you'd already kind of checked in together. So, and there are lots of small things like that you can do. But I mean, the big thing is to take your child seriously and not to tell them to be fine, but allow them to be happy kids and also worried kids, to jump in and out of both.
So is that validating their feelings?
Feelings.
Okay, yeah, something I'm learning about. I'm so sorry that you're feeling angry. I can see how frustrating that might be. It's literally like that's me with a toddler trying to learn. Before we come to a close,
this has been so nice. It's lovely talking to you.
It's so nice for me, and I can't wait to see other ones you do. And I was going to ask you, actually, when is your next one, so that anyone who's watching this and thinking, I need more Julia Samuel in my life, because everyone needs more Julia Samuel in their life, when is your next Instagram live?
I think I'm doing, I can't remember. No idea. I know.
Okay, well, you can check Julia's Instagram. She updates stuff there.
Yes.
So have a look there. But my final thing I wanted to ask you, so for anyone who hasn't read This Too Shall Pass, but has maybe read Grief Works or is familiar with your work in bereavement, what would you say is the kind of biggest takeaway for change? What could the book build on, perhaps, that we've talked about today?
I think that, I mean, that we need to learn to be, thank you, to be self-compassionate and support ourselves. And the thing that we don't like is that pain, discomfort at one end and actual pain at the other end is the active agent of change. It's what allows us to change, but it doesn't kill us. And the things that you do to avoid the pain means that it comes back, and often it comes back harder. So to know ourselves and not distract yourselves, support yourselves with friendship. I mean, I think more than ever, I think we know that love and connection is the predictor of good outcomes. Love and connection with our friends, with our families, with, you know, and you don't need huge numbers. Some people have 3 or 4 best friends. But if you look at the outcomes of lives of people who live longer, are wealthier, healthier, have better memories, less pain, the connecting factor with all of them is love and connection to others. So to prioritize that, kind of make that a big part of your kind of cake of your life, because that will be the thing that matters most.
God, that's made me want to ask you so many things more, but alas, our time is up. It's been such a pleasure. I can't wait to watch and listen and read more of your books in the future, and I'm sure everyone feels the same. No, never writing another one, soz.
You are. That is not true.
I'm not, but you are. Thank you, Julia.
Lots of love. Bye.